the Vice Chancellor and the Chief Academic Officer at Taylor's University. With over 3 decades of expertise, Professor Nair has led innovative projects, including the successful implementation of the Taylor's curriculum framework in 2018, redefining higher education. Dr. Nair will be facilitating the learning session on Rise to the Purpose-Led Generation, a transformative response. Please join us in extending a warm welcome to Professor Dr. Pradeep Nair.
Hi, everyone. It's afternoon here in Malaysia, so I'll say a good afternoon to everybody, and a good day to all of you, wherever you are. Can you all hear me clearly and see my slides? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. So I just wanted to share with you a transformative project that we've worked on here at Taylor's in Malaysia, right? And this project has to do with our response to the changing demographics of our student population and how we feel we need to respond to the future generation of students that are coming to us. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Taylor's, we are ranked 41 in Asia in the QS World Rankings. And in the world, we are ranked 284. And in the last 7 or 8 years that we have been in the QS rankings, we have done very well for a university that is only 13 years old in Malaysia. And we have risen to be the top private university in the whole of Southeast Asia. And we are at the 6th ranked university in Malaysia. The other 5 above us are all state universities. And so we're the top private university in Malaysia as well. I'm explaining this to you, not so much to promote my university, but to show you the transformation that we would like to make. As most universities in the world have joined the ranking game and aspire to be the best in the world, I want to try and tell you how we would like this journey to be, we would like to take a slightly different turn in this journey of ours. We're all very familiar with the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. And as we come out of the pandemic, there are clear shifts that have taken place at the workplace. There are shifts in learner behavior, and there's a lot of pressure on the higher education sector in general. One of the things that we did way back in late 2021 was in the midst of the COVID pandemic, we started taking a look at international reports. We studied a total of 12 different international reports. And the reports were about what the future of work would be like, what the future workplace would look like, what are the expectations of employees at these workplaces in the future, what would the students coming to us in the future be like. And so we looked at studies done by, the World Economic Forum, Deloitte, Ernst & Young, McKinsey, Pearson, and a whole host of other organizations, very extensive studies. And from these studies, we drew some conclusions. The first is, oops, did I go too fast? Yes. The first is how the workplace has changed. And there were 4 major things that we observed. First was the Industrial Revolution 4.0. I think we are already at the onset of Industrial Revolution 5.0, and how the emergence of IoT, artificial intelligence, robotics, automation, there's a whole technological revolution that is taking place across various organizations and impacting these organizations. The second shift was massive digitization, and something like 84% of companies coming out of COVID said that they will continue to digitize their operations and their business. The third was about the emergence of organizations demanding employees to have transformative competencies. Transformative competencies are competencies that help organizations change the way they operate. So it's not just enough to have a bachelor's degree and a qualification. They were really looking for employees with very specific competencies, what's generally described as transformative competencies, because of the fact that there is this whole innovation-driven economy that we're all in today. The fourth shift in the workplace was the emergence of purposeful work. And I'll speak a little bit more about this in my next slide. The research that we did found that working in purpose-driven organizations was second only to pay and benefits, and in fact, ahead of promotions. And that 50% of the workforce in some organizations were willing to take a 15% pay cut to work for inspiring purpose-led organizations. McKinsey's research also revealed that people who worked in purpose-driven organizations were 4 times more engaged at work. They were more productive than people who worked in organizations that didn't quite have a purpose. And people who worked in purpose-driven organizations were healthier, more resilient, and more likely to stay in the company. And they were more willing to recommend the company to others. So we saw this emergence of purpose-driven companies or organizations trying to or wanting to become more purpose-driven because of the benefits that were obviously accrued from this approach. Now, other than the fact that the workplace has changed, the reports that we studied also showed that employees have changed. And let me share some data with you. Most of us are probably very familiar with this phenomena of the Great Resignation, where people woke up, either during or after the COVID pandemic and said, this is not the kind of job that I want. This is not the kind of work that I'd like to do. I'd like to do things that align with my own passion. I want work to be meaningful, and so on and so forth. And this is a phenomena experience or initially identified in the United States, then across Europe and even in Asia and other parts of the world, where organizations experience a large turnover rate, people who actually decide to just leave their jobs and look for things that aligned better with their own personal purpose or reason. The study by Deloitte that was done in 2022 revealed that the Great Resignation is not a new phenomena. People from as early as 2015, Harvard study, were already talking about organizations that were purpose-driven, being more resilient, more productive, more financially successful. But I guess the COVID-19 accelerated the change. And to me, the Great Resignation signals sort of a breaking point, and a point at which organizations need to rethink how they work, because I believe it's going to be with us for a while. Now, Deloitte's study of Gen Z and the millennials in 2022 revealed that 40% of Gen Z would like to leave their jobs within 2 years. Now that's 4 out of 10. Now that's quite significant. And what's perhaps more interesting is that a big number of these would actually leave their jobs without actually having another job lined up for them. We're familiar with Gen Z, typically those born between 1995 and 2010. The oldest Gen Z is probably about 27 years old, already in the workforce. The youngest is about 12. And we also know that after Gen Z comes Gen Alpha. And there is a shift in the expectations of this younger generation, Gen Z and perhaps Gen Alpha, in terms of what they want out of their work. If we were to just another anecdote would be around this idea that this is a generation that actually feel burnt out very quickly due to the intensity of their workload. They leave the organization because they feel stressed and burnt out, and they feel that the employer is not doing enough in this area. If we look at how we can deal with this generation, Deloitte study revealed, so they talked to a group of people about whether they're going to stay. 40% of them said they probably not stay more than 2 years. Then they talked to another group of people who actually stayed in the organization for 5 years or more, right? So they talked to the people who were retained by the organization. And what was very interesting is that when people feel their voices are heard, they tend to feel more connected and loyal to the organization. Now, 66% of those who stayed beyond 5 years said that they stayed because they feel empowered and they feel that their voices are being heard, and they could make meaningful contributions to the organization. And Deloitte study also talked about the generation Z and Alpha as a generation where they want their employers to invest in visible, everyday environmental, actions, and they want to be directly involved in these actions. So it's a very sustainability, environment oriented type of a generation. They care about what's around them, and they want to see their employers actively engaged, not just in talking, but in actual action related to this. Now, I talked about shifts at the workplace. I talked about shifts among the employees, and I want to spend a bit of time talking about shifts in learner expectations. This generation that are currently in our universities today is a generation that do not just want to attend lectures, tutorials, lab sessions, do simulations. I think they're not happy with just campus-based learning that's theoretical or just simulated practicals. They want to learn in context. They want learning to be set in a real-world context. They want learning to be personalized and meaningful, and to align with their individual identities, and align with their own purpose and passion. This is a generation that wants to make an impact to the world. They are certainly more socially conscious than perhaps my generation. They like to support a good cause. They care about issues like ESG and the UN SDG, and they are driven to make a positive impact in the world. So I've talked about shifts at the workplace. I've talked about shifts among employees, shifts among learner behavior. And of course, there are challenges to higher education institutions. We know that it's crowded with many competitive alternatives. It is highly disrupted by technology. the emergence of micro-credentials and even the emergence of alternative credentials is sometimes discussed alongside a perceived devaluation of higher education. And there seems to be several universities around the world that are trying to realign their education to suit the generation of learners that are coming to us today. So for tailors, one of the questions we asked ourselves is, if the workplace is changing and is becoming more purpose-driven, and if the younger generation coming to us are not just interested in academic credentials, and they are not just interested in attending lectures and classes and taking exams and being credentialed, I think these are important, but that's not exactly why they want to come to the university. Then how can universities stay relevant to this generation of learners? At Taylor's, we responded by publishing a blueprint, an 8-year blueprint called Learning 2030 and Research 2030. And it was about how we were going to reshape higher education at our university. And we told ourselves that perhaps this race to become the best university in the world, well, it's not a bad idea, being the best university in the world, but perhaps we could become the best university for the world, a university where the students and the staff are able to make change, bring impact to the world. And in doing so, we envisaged a purpose-led, impact-driven educational model where students and staff are actively engaged as they study in projects that actually make an impact in the world. So to do this, we asked ourselves what impact the university would like to make. Obviously, the UN Sustainable Development Goals was a reference point, but we also looked at multiple blueprints that would actually support both our education and research agenda. And we identified 12 impact labs, and we set these 12 labs up at the university. So the idea behind this is, all of us know that universities are famously organized by discipline. You have a Department of Health, Medicine, Pharmacy, a Department of Engineering, a Department of Business, Department of Tourism, Department of Computer Science, and so on and so forth. I would like to argue that organizing ourselves by discipline is perhaps the biggest obstacle to interdisciplinarity or multidisciplinarity. Human beings, as we know, are notoriously territorial. So this is my area, this is your area, kind of a thing. And we asked ourselves, must universities be organized by disciplines? Why not it be organized by challenges? And so each impact lab at Taylor's is a reorganized university in which our academic staff are in a group or a lab called the Eradicating Poverty Lab, or the Education for All Lab, or the Peace, Justice, and Strong Institutions Lab. And you see a whole list of 12 labs that we established. And each of these labs were led by experts. So we don't have faculties or schools per se, but we have a digital innovation and digital health and innovation lab, medical advancement for better quality of life lab, an active aging lab, and so on and so forth. And so we reorganized the university into these labs, and the academic staff. So this was the launch of the labs, and the academic staff in the university were now organized according to the different labs. So you'll see in this slide how our Eradicating Poverty Lab draws experts from 6 different disciplines and consists of 42 members. Education for All Lab draws expertise from 11 different disciplines and has 80 members, and so on and so forth. And within, for example, our Eradicating Poverty Lab, I've got economists in it, I've got scientists, I've got doctors, I've got pharmacists, I've got computer scientists. And so my point is, if the problems of the world are complex, we can't possibly imagine a single discipline being able to address the challenges of the world. And that because the challenges we face today are complex challenges, it requires expertise from multiple disciplines to address them. And so as an institution of higher learning, organizing ourselves by challenges rather than by specific disciplines is perhaps a way that we could bring together experts from different disciplines, work with our students, and provide them that multidisciplinary education that is much needed to provide students with the perspective that they can actually solve real-world challenges. And so, alongside the organization of the lab, we carried out quite a bit of restructuring and established a governance system, a whole range of things, in order to be able to execute and measure impact-driven learning at the university. And so, just to share with you, we only launched our labs in October of last year, 2022. The 12 impact labs in 1 year has actually carried out 106 impact projects that were embedded into 122 modules. These are courses that we teach across different degrees. It involved over 4,000 odd students. We worked with 120 external partners, and we benefited 43 organizations, 13 communities, and about 3,000 odd individuals. And the labs actually advocated change. There were about 40 different advocacy pieces in the media and in different events. And having done this for a year, we're now trying to chart what a student's journey, what this Gen Z or Gen Alpha journey would be like when they come through this university. Before they come into the university, they would, at the pre-enrollment stage, write their motivation and purpose statement. During the orientation, and they would actually share these statements. In the first semester, the life skills facilitators at the university take them through a self-discovery process, and they try to further develop their statement into an actionable one. In the first year, in the second semester, they undertake a discipline agnostic course called Social Innovation Project that bring students from medicine, pharmacy, business, computer science together to try and introduce them to how they can undertake a project that makes an impact to society. And in the from the second to the end of their degree, we have built into various courses in the degree program impact projects that allow them to make an impact while they study at the university. And their final year project, or the FYP, is also an impact project. And when they graduate, they are acknowledged with a Shine Platinum, Gold, or Silver Award based on the kind of impact that they have made during their studies here. So we've looked at the whole value chain from pre-enrollment to graduation to try and allow them to set a I will or a purpose statement, and then graduate with something that they could say, I have actually done or made this impact in society. And so we've actually integrated impact projects, as I described just a minute ago. So for example, every one of our schools have actually embraced the labs and the kind of uh, real world challenges that they will align their curriculum to. And within, so these are all the schools in the university. And within a particular degree program, so for example, a Bachelor of Computer Science, we've identified one subject or one module in each year level and the different impact labs that these modules, they would undertake projects to support the different impact labs. And in terms of research, we've actually now, those 12 impact labs have become 12 niche research areas of our university. We've aligned our publications to the impact labs. And in terms of advocacy, our impact lab directors and members have actually been advocating for positive change in their various areas within it. Okay, I still have plenty of time. I was given an hour to speak, and I'm almost at the end. Maybe we will have a lot of time for questions. Just to share some of my reflections. First, the impact projects, because they are doing good for society and for industry, they've actually enhanced the branding of the university. So this is not a bad thing to do at all. And I'm just showing you how these are real projects, and this is how Taylor's presents itself to the public. Real projects, for example, on the left is how our education, our students in our School of Education help address learning poverty. The one in the middle is how the students in computer science and engineering work together to develop a digital braille pad for the blind. The third is how our students in the communication school helped create learning opportunities for underserved students by actually putting out a cabinet in every underserved school with stationaries and books that someone who can't afford to buy one can actually go and pick up for free. And these have actually enhanced the way we present the university to the public. Secondly, these are examples of multiple impact projects that we've undertaken. And I think we've achieved the idea that students now learn more in context and not just in the classroom. Thirdly, the students actually are able to articulate a purpose statement that aligns with their own passion. And these are examples of some purpose statements that our students have written. We also found that academics, these are all lecturers from our university, and how they are now finding a greater sense of purpose aligned to their work. Remember McKinsey's study that people whose work aligns to a greater purpose are more connected, more resilient, healthier, and so on and so forth. We also found that in the process, because our academics carry out impact projects externally, they've been able to expand their network and become very community facing. And this actually allows the university to work with multiple organizations inside and outside the university to make a difference in the student. And so I think, I may be wrong, that we're probably the first university in the world to implement purpose learning across all its schools in terms of education, research, and advocacy. So that's a picture of our campus. So I guess we're not just interested to be the best university in the world. Oh, looks like the in is supposed to disappear and become a for. So it's supposed to be for the world. But I guess the animation is not working in this slide. I'm going to stop here and request the backstage if you could play the first video that I shared with you. Is that possible? Jordan, could you help?
I'll play it now.
Thank you.
Please stop sharing your screen. Okay.
The world's nations developed 17 new priorities focused on people, protecting the planet, and ensuring prosperity for all. These are the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. At Taylor's University, we stand for the good of public and in commitment to social responsibility.
We want to transform our learning and research to become more purposeful through impact labs. We envision our staff and students channeling their knowledge and efforts to crusade for what they truly believe in, make a positive impact on society, and in turn, be recognized as heroes in our community. Each impact lab will consist of solution-focused teams of academics, professional staff, practitioners, and students with a common purpose to address the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or the UN SDGs. The impact labs are about making your personal aspirations part of your daily work to change the world for the better. Sharing this journey with your students allows you to bring life to our purpose statement to educate the youth of the world to take their productive place as leaders in the global community. By being purpose-driven, we want to be not just the best university in the world, but the best university for the world.
Okay, thank you. Jordan, could you play the second video? So the second video is really about an example of some of the work that the labs have done. I mean, I have many videos, but in the interest of time, I'll just show you one sample of what some of the labs have actually done over the past year, based on the impact projects that they've carried out.
Taylor's Medical Advancement for Better Quality of Life Impact Lab has integrally assimilated 5 impactful projects into the curriculum, engaging 392 students, collaborating with 9 partners, including government agencies, non-governmental organizations, and companies, as well as benefiting 262 individuals. The health screening. The project focused on providing access to state-of-the-art, rapid health screening to the needy community in Damansara, Utama, SS20, SS21, and Bandar Utama. Over 350 residents School of Pharmacy were introduced to the Damansara and Bandar Utama communities, providing them with valuable hands-on experience.
Thank you to you and your team. It was a success, and every one of our residents only had good word in future.
In Taylor's Food Security and Nutrition Impact Lab, with the active participation of 521 students, has achieved a noteworthy milestone through the execution of 5 impactful projects, benefiting 114 beneficiaries, 6 organizations, and collaborating with 11 partners, including government agencies, non-governmental organizations, and companies. Building on the success of the Impact Lab, we introduce the Nourish You Impact Project, a collaborative effort with esteemed partners such as the Food Aids Foundation, MOE, and NSM. The aim of the Nourish You project is to nurture young minds for a brighter future by improving Malaysian school meals and enhancing nutrition education, thus promoting better nutrition and academic achievement. This impact project leverages the involvement of students from 3 modules: Introduction to Food Science and Nutrition, Experimental Food Products and AMP Practices, and Food Processing. The Nourish You project epitomizes the synergy of education, collaboration, and real-world application, creating a lasting impact for those in need. Together, we are not just learning, we are active contributors to a brighter future.
My visit to the Food Aid Foundation was a rewarding experience. The field visit broadened my insight into food processing and the workings of food banks. I'm thrilled to contribute to the project, designing, preparing, and distributing nutritious food for young children.
Taylor's Eradicating Poverty Impact Lab has integrally assimilated 6 impactful projects into the curriculum, engaging 1,428 students, collaborating with 12 partners, including government agencies, non-governmental organizations, and companies, as well as benefiting 660 individuals and 1 organization. The Ibu Niaga project is a transformative initiative dedicated to empowering B40 women in Malaysia through entrepreneurship. Through comprehensive training programs, mentorship, and access to resources, the project equips the women with the knowledge and skills to establish and grow their own businesses. A 2-day bazaar at Taylor's University campus provides direct income opportunities for the participants.
Workshop, so we learning about how to manage finance, the financial, how we are going to use the fund.
It's a bonus for me if my item all sell. Jadi semalam saya capai target. Hari ini I hopefully lebih dari semalam.
Together, we have made a difference in people's lives. We are impact makers.
I will improve the survival rates of patients with my research skills in biomedical sciences.
I will ensure our community's children in need have nutritious food to enjoy at home by crafting nourishing and shelf-stable meals utilizing my expertise in food processing. I will combat malnutrition and food waste by designing wholesome meals for B40 community using surplus ingredients and my creativity in culinary.
Hey, thank you, Jordan. I'm done. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. So there's one question here. What strategies or methods do you follow to ensure the students take the course with them for the rest of their life and not just during their time at Taylor's? You teach a man to fish. You never know if he's going to fish forever. But I guess that's what education institutions do. My sense, I think it's a great question. My sense is that the first assumption is that this is a generation that is purpose-driven. That's the first assumption we have made, that the Z and the Alpha generation are more driven by purpose. They want to pursue something that they are passionate about, that has meaning to them. It's a me generation. What's in it for me? How do I, get something out of this? So with that assumption, we believe that when they undertake these projects, the most important difference is the internalization and the kind of appreciation of the change that they are capable of bringing to the world, right? So let me give you an example. Now, every semester, when students join, the new students join the university, they take a course called Life Skills for Success. This is the course where our life skills facilitators would actually work with the students on their purpose statement, their individual purpose statements, try and get them to get more clarity about what they actually want to do, and so on and so forth. What was very interesting, we did a poll among 1,300 students in the first semester. We asked them, we showed them all the 12 impact labs, right? And we said, can you rank which one is the most important for you, right? These are semester 1 students, fresh out of high school, fresh out of college. And we said, so, eradicating poverty, mental health and well-being, active aging, clean technology, which lab aligns with, would you rank as the top? Can you guess which one was right at the bottom? These are 19 to 23-year-olds. They come from 104 different countries. Now, what surprised me the most was right at the bottom, the bottom 3 was eradicating poverty. Now remember, we are a private university. We're a private university. Many of our students are fairly well-to-do. And to them, poverty was not top of their mind, right? Also, right at the bottom 3 was active aging. And I realized that for these young people, taking care of the older folks was my father or my mother's challenge, not mine. The problem of aging or the challenges faced by the aged is not something at the top of their mind. Now, can you imagine what was right at the top? Right at the top for most of these students was mental health and well-being. So, ladies and gentlemen, what I want to highlight to you is that when students come to us, they bring with them their context, their background. And for a university like Taylor's, I think if we can get students from a current state to appreciate the challenges of the world and actually make impact to the world, we believe we've given them that feeling that I can make the difference. I can be part of a solution, not just sit and watch the problem. Having said that, when we did the Ibu Niaga project, the project where we empowered, every semester we select 30 single mothers or underserved women. And our students in psychology, in finance, in culinary, in design, empower them with the knowledge and skills to be able to run their own business. When we did post-project surveys with the students, the most obvious feedback from students was that I didn't know that people were so poor. And I didn't know there are people who are victims of domestic violence. So students come face to face with the realities and the challenges that are out there. So I guess, will this stay with them for the rest of their lives? I certainly hope so. I hope what we're doing is something far more enduring than just during the period of their study. So I hope I've answered the question. To Mr. Dilip, I think. Anita Chen, what is your advice for young scholars to support this educational innovation that challenges the current structure? Actually, my problem is not the students. The students embrace this quite easily because, as I said, students are becoming increasingly uncomfortable if they just have to go to the university, attend lectures. And the COVID pandemic basically said, look, what am I doing here? I watched you for 2 years on a screen. and I was still able to pass my courses, right? I'm not undermining the value of face-to-face education. I think it has its value. I'm not undermining campus-based education. I think it has its value. But I think this is a generation that is demanding for learning to be in context, right? So to young scholars to support this innovation, I think the only challenge we face is perhaps getting students to undertake these projects, because it actually means a little bit more work. Previously, I sit in class and complete my lectures, finish a paper-based project, and then I submit it, take my exams, and I graduate. There's a little bit more work. But when they actually experience the project and the impact that they make, they begin to value the experience a lot more. So I think the challenge is, how do we change our academic staff? How do we change the lecturers? How do we change university leadership to move away from the paradigm that my job is to teach you and your job is to learn past the exams, beyond that standard paradigm to a new paradigm of purpose-driven learning. So Anita, I hope I've answered your question. Accreditation, not really a problem. We've never faced any problem because I think most accreditation systems, whether professional bodies or non-professional courses, most of them encourage experiential learning, learning in context. So we've not had any problems with accreditation. As I said, the biggest challenge is, how do we manage shifting lecturers' way of doing things from the way they used to do it to a new way where projects are real life projects, working with people in community and so on and so forth. The difference between the lab system and the liberal arts system. So the lab system is the bringing together of people from different disciplines with different expertise. And I guess it's different in that sense from the liberal arts system, which focuses more on broad-based learning, right? So you learn about a multitude of subjects across the sciences, the social sciences, humanities, and so on and so forth. So they're not quite the same in terms of comparison. There's a question: how is ESG helping institutes to be purpose-driven? Okay. I think I'll answer it the other way around. If your institution doesn't embrace ESG or sustainability, you are moving further and further away from your student body and the aspirations that they have. So the time will come when students kind of align themselves closer to institutions that they can relate to. And sustainability, the environment, community-based issues, and so on and so forth, are things that this generation of learners align themselves to more easily. So this is a very interesting question. Now, I talked about how we have organized the academic staff into impact labs, and how each impact lab is made up of people from multiple disciplines. So what happens to our degrees? What happens, so we still have schools of medicine, schools of pharmacy. There's still a head of school. There's still a program director who manages the program. So we consider that an administrative organization of the university. And then there is the lab organization. So at this point in time, there are almost like two parallel structures. The labs deliver education and research. The program directors in the school structure, the heads of school, they deliver the administration of the academic program. I hope I've answered your question. Wow. I'm tempted to give you a one-word answer to the question. Passion. I think every lab director, the first quality we look for is passion. So let me give you an example. The director of my Eradicating Poverty Lab, Professor Anandita, is an absolutely passionate lady. And she wants to eradicate poverty totally in the world. That's her life mission. So the alignment between the director's personal purpose, personal life mission, and the mission of the lab is very important. So you've got to have leaders who are passionate for the cause. Secondly, we need these leaders to align the passion to their work, meaning in terms of research, if you look at Professor Anandita's research, a lot of it is around poverty eradication, economic upliftment, social injustice, and so on and so forth. So when their work, both in teaching and in research, align to their life mission, I think that's a sweet spot where you've probably found someone who's able to drive the mission of the lab. Now, having said that, a lot of training was provided to the lab leadership in terms of project management. We found that project management wasn't exactly the core competency of academics, right? Because they tend to work individually, most of them. So project management training was very important for this group. Team development, team management and team development, because of the fact that you're dealing with a very diverse group of people, and they're all not from your discipline, right? But they all have a common interest around the theme of the lab. So yes, some training was actually required for this. Oh, Dilip, you asked the most difficult questions. What are some unlearning? I would say if I had to do this all over again, I would have tried not to move so quickly, not so fast. I would have spent more time finding the people to run and manage the labs, right? Because we did this all in a year. We find a year later, some labs run faster than other labs. And so the whole team dynamics is something I would have liked to spend more time on in that process. Excellent question, Siva Ranjini. How far the solutions developed in the lab are becoming sustainable. So let me give you an example of our architecture students. So, if you are familiar with architecture studies, the first thing they teach you in the first semester of an architecture degree is building structures. And I remember in the past, they used cardboard, sticks, etc., and they built models of different structures to to understand structure building and so on and so forth. Now that the architecture program has embraced our livable urban communities lab, what they've done is they've gone to communities. So for example, there's a community nearby the university where their parks are, not really in the best shape. So the students and the lecturers have actually worked with the local council and said that we will build life-size structures that will allow the community to rest, to gather around in a safe and comfortable environment, which is also weatherproof. So using bamboo, which is a very sustainable structure, they've now, I think we are now into the third or fourth iteration. They've already covered 3 different parks. And some of these structures, not some, but all these structures are permanent structures. And we're getting tremendous feedback. The Ibu Niaga project, training micro-entrepreneurs, is also something that we've done quite well, and it has sustained over the last year or so. I guess the best story to tell is our Baca project. Baca is Malay for to read, right? We found that, especially after COVID, people in year 4, year 5 were actually reading at year 1 level, right? So using I read, you read, we read methodology and using a simple analog phone, they were able to raise reading competency by almost 75% in 6 months. And this project has grown from 1 institution now. I think it covers about 7 or 8 different institutions. So it's actually growing to the point that we're actually getting public to volunteer their time to do reading for the children. So maybe I'll take one last question, if there's any, because I understand that we have 2 minutes left. So the graduate capability attainment statement is a statement that is very similar to the academic transcript that tells you what's your grade for economics, mathematics, history, whatever. This one gives you a grade of what's your grade for communication, what's your grade for problem solving, what's your grade for critical thinking, what's your grade for global perspectives, what's your grade for personal competency. So it actually measures, right? So it's a measurement of the attribute and a transcript that shows your attainment against the average in the university, right? So it gives employers the opportunity to not just see your academic scores, but to see your generic competencies, right? Or life skills, or some people call it soft skills. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the time. I guess I'm out of time. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And if you have any questions, please reach out. Be more than happy to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Naya. I think we can all say it was so inspiring. I think what you're doing at your institute is so innovative. And I wish I could be a student again. So thank you so much. Thank you for your time and your effort.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day ahead.